Are you curious what's happening in the real estate market for June 2023, particularly here at the Jersey Shore? I'm about to tell you right now. Hey, I'm Adam D with the Local Connect and KW Realty, and the most common question I get is, how's the market? Let's dig into that right now. Despite some of the headlines you're hearing, our market remains very competitive because of the inventory being low. If you're searching for a home, you probably haven't seen a whole surplus of houses coming onto the market. We're still dealing with a lot of multiple offer situations. However, I will say that some of these multiple offer situations are not getting bid up as high as they were before. But the ones that are getting multiple offers are still the nice condition properties, nice locations, the things that you don't have to do a whole lot of work to. And the sellers that have picked unsupported prices, they're still hanging around a little bit. They've increased our days on market a bit. But overall, I wanted to dig into the numbers and look a little bit at mortgage interest rates too, because I'm getting a lot of questions and headlines sent to me about mortgages and what's happening with interest rates. So we're going to take a deep dive on that and take a look at what actually might happen in the future with mortgage interest rates. All right, so jumping into the numbers, this is May of last year compared to May of this year, just last month. And again, the trend continues. Far fewer new listings coming onto the market, and because of that, there's fewer properties going under contract and fewer selling. But again, just like we talked last month, look at the disparity from the new listings coming onto the market and the contracts and the sold units. So there's still actually a lot of properties going under contract and selling relative to how few properties are coming onto the market. Prices are still going up, not nearly as much as they were before. Again, keep in mind these are median prices, so they don't tell the whole story, and there's always some data errors in the MLS. Now here's some overall year-to-date numbers. So we're going to compare 2022 to 2023. This is through the end of May, year-to-date. Same thing we just looked at on the month-to-month, right, where we have new listings are down, sold listings are significantly down year-to-date. That's why you see all the headlines about there's fewer real estate transactions. It's very real. That's why a lot of mortgage companies and title companies are suffering right now, because there's few transactions. And days on markets have crept up a little bit, which makes sense. Prices, continue to rise, but not at the same pace they were, say, 2 years ago. And properties are still selling very close to asking price. Those nice condition properties, as we know, are still getting multiple offers in many cases. And the absorption rate, or the number of homes for sale, how long would it take all of that inventory to dry up if 0 new homes came onto the market? We're still just under 3 months for the entire area, or our two MLSs, Cape May and Atlantic County. Under 3 months is still very much a seller's market. Has to get closer to 6 months for it to be a neutral or head into a buyer's market. And this really hasn't changed. I don't see any significant changes here. So that's it for the market stats. Now, I wanted to talk more about interest rates because most of the headlines right now have really been all about interest rates and what's going on with mortgages. So this is a look right now, just going back to April, the last couple months of what's happened with interest rates. And they definitely did go up as we went into late May. They went over 7% on an average. And the last couple weeks now into early to mid-June, they've leveled out, fallen just below 7%. Again, these are averages. They're going to change for every borrower. We're not seeing any significant changes, but they're still pretty close to that 7% number. So I wanted to dig into why. Everybody's asking why rates are so high. Very complex. There's a lot of data and reasons why. But one of the things that I've been looking at is the spread, right? So the spread between what that mortgage interest rate is and what the treasury yield is. And usually those two things follow each other in a very consistent manner. However, right now that spread is significantly higher than it normally is, and there's only been a few times in history where it's so different, right? And you can see that a lot of times it's at that 1.7, 1.72 number on average. We're about 3 almost right now for that spread between what the treasury and the mortgage interest rate is, right? And this has only happened 2008 crash, Great Depression, some very significant times in history. So it doesn't happen often, usually only happens in times of a lot of inflation, right? Which we know that we're dealing with, but it seems like the feds believe that has cooled off. Now, because we have this spread that's over 3% right now, you can see where our interest rates are. Now, this data is from a couple weeks ago, the beginning of June, so this may have changed. But here's what's really interesting. If the feds take their foot off the pedal here, and this spread goes down, not even to the average of 1.7, but maybe to 2.25, for example, interest rates are going to come down below 6%. And we'll look at this in a moment, but I think that causes a lot of buyers in this market to get even hotter again and prices to go up even further again should that happen. But as of course that remains to be seen. Chief economist for First American said something similar. It's reasonable to assume that the spread and therefore mortgage rates will retreat in the second half of the year, right? So they're predicting the Feds are going to take its foot off the pedal, and therefore that spread's actually going to go down, and therefore interest rates may go down later in the year. Now, I wouldn't plan for this to happen because keep in mind, you can always refinance. We don't know this is going to happen for sure, but this is what the Mortgage Bankers Association and Freddie Mac, this is what we're looking at here. And so Mortgage Bankers Association thinks that interest rates are actually going to come down as we head into the end of the year and next year. Again, I wouldn't wait for this to happen because we don't know that it's going to happen for sure. The only thing I take away from this is maybe we're past all of the rate increases. Maybe they've peaked, and you know what? If you buy now and they go down next year, great opportunity to refinance. Most popular headline in real estate right now is that Barbara Corcoran, right, from Shark Tank, she says that it's a great time to buy because home prices are going to explode when mortgage rates drop. And I may be biased, but if this happens, I don't know for sure if it happens, I would agree. If mortgage rates drop to 5% right now, there's going to be a surplus of buyers jumping into the market. And remember, we still have that very low inventory condition. Rates drop, more buyers come into the market, inventory is still low. That is the perfect disaster of prices going even higher. So if you own a home, that's great. If you're thinking about buying and you believe this to be true, then you might want to buy sooner than later if this were to happen. Last thing I want to take a look at as far as data is if you're a homeowner and you're thinking about selling, or if you're a buyer, you're competing against other buyers. We look at this every so often. These are the buyers that are walking through the door looking at homes for sale right now in New Jersey. And this yellow line is 2023, this year, right? And so here's what's crazy. You can see that we are higher than every year but 2020 right now in showings. There's more showings. But if you go back to our market data we were looking at, there's fewer homes on the market. So there's more buyers walking through the door, more showings on fewer homes. That again is what causes a very competitive market and even prices to increase. So I don't think we'll ever get to this 2020 number again. That was absolutely insane. It's going to be an anomaly. Even the 2021 and 2022 numbers, keep reflecting back on it, but these are extraordinary times of real estate that we may never see again. And yet, we think we're in the midst of a slowdown, but the numbers tell otherwise, and it actually may cause things to heat up even further later in the year. So we'll keep a close eye on that. I hope that gave you a look at the numbers and the actual data for what we're seeing, not only here locally in South Jersey, but also the rest of the United States. It's very important to be monitoring the market right now. That being said, it's still a great time to sell your house, and it may be an even better time to buy a house, believe it or not, if what some of these economists are predicting comes true. If you like these market updates and all of the real estate information that we're putting out, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. That way you're alerted of the next piece of real estate information we put out. I'm Adam D with Keller Williams and the Local Connect, and I'll see you on the next one.